Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome into the DFS Huddle. I am the DFS Bachelor, Kyle Provides. Typically, Erik is with me for this one, but he had some stuff he had to attend to, so we're going old school. It's actually been quite a fucking minute since I've done a show by myself. So we're gonna go over the FanDuel DraftKings main slate. This is the Sunday slate. Go over the quarterbacks, running backs, all that stuff. We'll try to make a lineup at the end. If you're in the chat box, no matter where you're watching, I should see it all. You got a question, start, sit, player, whatever you got, throw it in the chat box. I will do my best to get to it. Of course, wherever you're watching, please like, subscribe, follow on Twitter at DFS Bachelor. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you have a safe and fun day there. We're going to try to see who's going to make our weekend and ruin our weekend. And there's my boy Dixon. I do NFL DFS, had it for years. We kind of let it disappear. We brought it back. I like this Halloween font here. Typically, have a co-host Erik with us again. He's handling some family business here, so I'm going to ride a little bit solo. But like, subscribe if you want to join the Patreon, get all of our best bets, DFS lineups, you name it, we got it in there. College football, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, we got it. The link's in the video description below. It's $15 a month, 50 cents a day. All that stuff's there. Please share it out with your friends, trying to get this thing going. We really appreciate you guys. And I agree. I'm not a big Scam Duel fan either, my friend. Not a big fan of theirs myself, but unfortunately, out where I live, it's the only DFS you can play. So there is that. So let's jump right into it. Again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching too. Seriously, I appreciate it. So at quarterback, look, the idea of DFS, I should just start out like I'm trying to win a tournament here. There are safe plays, 50-50s. All those lineups will be posted in the Patreon. But some just points to keep in mind when you're playing DFS. Leave salary on the table when you're playing tournaments. That's going to differentiate you from 90% of the casual players. Just leaving even 100, 200, 300 on the table. You want to be unique. There's nothing worse, I've done it several times, than tying for first place with thousands of people, and you think you're getting a $100,000 prize, and you end up splitting it and you all win like $300. So you try to be unique, try to be different. We're going for the big stuff. Yep, it looks like Travion Henderson's going to start over Ramondre. There's a few backup running backs we'll talk about when we get there. But starting at quarterback, I mean, I got a problem because I'm top heavy. Josh Allen and Mahomes are playing each other. Now you look at the matchup. Both teams have been really good against opposing quarterbacks. The Bills have allowed the second fewest opposing fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. The Chiefs, the fifth fewest. There's certainly matchups to avoid when you look at sort of adjusted fantasy points allowed, DVOA, all that stuff. Chiefs and Bills top 10, but I kind of throw that out the window with this game. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. It kind of has a feel of a playoff game. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to go back and forth. If you don't want to play him in the Millionaire Maker, I totally get it, trying to save a quarterback. But I'm going to have one of them, and it's probably going to be the home guy, Allen. I'll probably make multiple lineups, but I'll do that afternoon-only slate and sort of get exposure to the quarterbacks that way as well. Some defenses I just want to point out to exploit. This is in terms of adjusted fantasy points allowed to compare to their counterparts, and we're going to talk about the players, but the Steelers have leapfrogged the Cowboys as the worst against opposing quarterbacks. So Daniel Jones is a full go. We're going to talk about that in a second. Cowboys second, Jacksonville attack that third. Green Bay, the Colts, the Giants, the Bengals, the Vikings, and the Jets rounded up out there. And then you have Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, all a +1 or greater. Teams to avoid: Texans, Broncos, Bills, Saints, surprisingly enough, Rams, Falcons, Chargers, Browns, Chiefs, and the Buccaneers. So I love both Allen and Mahomes. I'm not going to call you crazy for playing them. They are expensive, but I think there's a lot of fantasy points to be had. These two are going to be going back and forth. Love the matchup. Justin Herbert. Now the concern here, he's on my fantasy team. This has been my guy all year. Leads the league in passing yards, all that good stuff. I think this is more of a Kamani Vidal game. Titans are 12th against opposing quarterbacks. That's mostly because you don't need to press the gas and throw it on them. Now, Herbert's probably going to have an excellent first half. You can have a lot of fantasy points in the first half, but what's that going to look like in the second half when they don't have to keep their sort of foot on the throat? So that one gets a little bit dicey. Drake May's interesting for me. Atlanta's actually been good against opposing quarterbacks, but he's been the model of consistency. If you want to be a little bit different in tournaments, maybe pay up a little bit. The Falcons, fourth fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. But again, we've seen holes with that team. It's a really inconsistent team. I think Drake May's in play. Bo Nix out. No, thank you. He's not out, but just absolutely not. The Texans are good against quarterbacks. Stafford against the Saints, coming off the bye week. They get Puka Nacua back. That passing game is going to be in full force. Again, same thing sort of applies that we talked about with the Colts, or excuse me, with the Chargers and the Titans. Are the Rams just beating the living shit out of the Saints in the second half? And it's the Kyron Williams, Blake Corum show. We'll have to see. Daniel Jones, love the price, 6'2 DraftKings, 7'9 FanDuel. Pittsburgh allows the second most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. We talked about it, the highest adjusted fantasy points allowed of any team on the board. So all signs point to Daniel Jones. But here's my thing. The NFL is fucking weird, and it has been weird all year long. And when it's all signs pointing to something happening, it feels like the opposite. I do have a little bit of concern here, but Daniel Jones for the price, I get it. It almost seems too obvious, and I sort of hate that. I think we just see it time and time again where the obvious just isn't the way to go. One pivot I like. I think we can see points, Minnesota, Detroit. Total's at 48. I think it goes over. I like this divisional matchup, a rematch of last year. You remember the games they had last year fighting for that division. I think Jared Goff could be really interesting this week. I like the front seven of the Vikings. I think they're a little bit weak in the back. And we've heard the talk how they're upset that they haven't been getting Jameson Williams the ball. We're going to talk about him. He didn't have any targets for the first time or catches. No catches for the first time in his career last week. I think you see some big play shots to Jameson. I think the upside is there. They can push the pace. I think Jared Goff is really interesting. And I like having a quarterback where I know this team's going to go for it occasionally on fourth down. They're not going to have this fuddy-duddy fucking stop run it on fucking 3rd and 4 up the middle and all that bullshit. They're going to be creative. They're going to have their foot on the gas. I think Jared Goff's an interesting tournament pivot. Then we get to this guy, fucking Caleb Williams. And look, everything says play Caleb Williams this week. His price is good. 5-7 DraftKings, 7-3 FanDuel. The matchup, you can't get much better than that horrific Bengals defense, but it's just real boom or bust. It's tournaments only. You've seen it in his last 5 games. Here's Caleb Williams. He had a 29. Boom. Let's go. Great. 13, 12, 6, and 13 since then with some good matchups. So keep an eye on the weather. Always keep an eye on the weather, especially this time of the year heading into Sunday. Make sure. But in tournaments, yeah, and that's a great point. I love the fact that he's going to blitz because give me the big. What do I want? When I'm playing for big play upside, and I want man-to-man coverage. So give me that blitz. And Jared Goff is very, very good at getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Title of your sex tape. And so there we go. And we're going to get to T. Lawrence here in just a moment. But Caleb Williams, it's tournament boom or bust. Play at your own risk. Look, every time I play him, he fucking burns me. Every single time. Without fail, Caleb Williams burns me. But we shall see this week. Next, our guy Dixon's talking about it here in the chat. We have Brock Purdy possibly coming back, and that could be intriguing against the Giants, who are a really, really bad secondary, kind of try to get that team going. But Trevor Lawrence has a matchup against the Raiders. We talked about it. The Raiders are certainly a matchup you want to exploit. High upside. Now, one concern, you mentioned Brian Thomas Jr., who's been limited in practice and has been hit with the drops this week. Travis Hunter, who was sort of emerging as their number one receiver, he's out. They put him on injured reserve, a non-contact injury in practice. Like Trevor Lawrence still, 5-4 DraftKings, 6-9 FanDuel, high upside. They're going to throw it. I like the matchup against the Raiders. So if you're looking for a value, low-price quarterback, I certainly do like Trevor Lawrence as well. And there was just no one else for me. I mean, the matchup is there for Geno Smith, but honestly, I'd rather get herpes and play Geno Smith in DFS. Plain and simple. As low as I'm going Trevor Lawrence, he's probably the value guy for me. Good call there by our boy Dixon Sider. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. If you want all the DFS lineups, if you're playing these, you want to see what we play, all that stuff, Patreon, the link's in the video description below. $15 a month. Let's get to running back. So Jonathan Taylor is in play every week. He's very expensive. Pittsburgh's definitely better against the run. They're one of those teams you sort of want to avoid. A negative 0.1 adjusted fantasy points allowed. But again, he's going to get the ball a lot. Pick your poison. Look, if you want to fade Taylor, play Daniel Jones. I get it, and vice versa. Christian McCaffrey's going to be in play. Tough week last week. Couldn't really get going. But now he gets to face a Giants team who is sixth from the bottom in adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. They've allowed the sixth most fantasy points to opposing running backs. We know he's going to be involved in the passing game. Christian McCaffrey, full go on that. I do expect a bounce back from Bijan against New England. It's just that New England's a good front, so I'm not sure I'm jumping all over that. I'm sort of coming down here to Kyren Williams in this matchup against the Saints. I think it's a run game script. He's cheaper. He's 6'8" DraftKings, 8K on FanDuel. Coming off a bye, they involve him in the passing game just a few weeks ago, 10 targets. Now you have Puka Nacua back. It's going to open it up even more. I think there's a lot of upside this week for Kyren Williams. Kamani Vidal. It's crazy. We're now spending 6-3 and 7-7. But this is the matchup. No Jeremy Simmons or Jeffrey Simmons again for the Titans up front. They allow the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs. They allow the third highest adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs, only better than the Bengals and the Cowboys. Kamani Vidal, he's got a good matchup this week. I think he makes a ton of sense. Chase Brown against Chicago. That could be a tournament pivot. A lot of people are going to like Kamani Vidal, etc. A tournament pivot, a guy who's a little bit lower owned, could be Chase Brown in a good matchup against the Bears. I do think ATN, now with Travis Hunter out, it's been kind of slow going for ATN over the last several weeks. This is a good bounce back spot against the Raiders, and I think you'll see him involved in the passing game out of the backfield a little more. Tyrone Tracy now going to be the guy after, unfortunately, Cam Scatterboo was injured last week. That awful injury. Fun rookie, fun player. Totally stinks, but Tyrone Tracy is going to take over the reins. This is not, the 49ers defensive years past. Robert Saleh's coaching his ass off. Good scheme, but they're just so beat up front. Tyrone Tracy certainly in play this week. And we've got some other value ones. We mentioned Travion Henderson. Now, it's boom or bust. Falcons are one of those teams running backs have had success against. In fact, they have the 5th worst adjusted FPA against running backs at 5.3. He's going to get the start. He's 4,900 DraftKings. I can see him getting him the ball, getting him in space. Big play upside. Absolutely. Love Travion Henderson. Another running back who's now going to get, looks like the full bore. I like both Kareem Hunt and Brashard Smith for the Chiefs. They're both going to be involved. Brashard Smith, certainly a tournament dart throw, especially in those afternoon only if you're looking to pivot off of Kareem Hunt with no Isaiah Pacheco this week. I think that makes perfect sense. And then it was just announced today, no DeAndre Swift this weekend. The Bengals allow the most fantasy points to opposing running backs, 2nd worst adjusted fantasy points allowed. Kyle Monangai, 4,600 DraftKings, 5.2 FanDuel. He's going to get the bulk of the work. He'll probably get poached by Roshan Johnson, and you'll be screaming at the TV. But that's something there. And then I just want to talk Brashard Smith. I do think he's going to be involved in the passing game as well. Change of pace running back. They're not going to put Kareem Hunt in on 90% of the snaps. This guy's going to see some snaps. You're looking for a tournament dart throw. I think Brashard Smith makes a ton of sense. Let's get to the wide receivers, and there's always a lot of them. Again, some of the matchups. Kareem scoring 2 touchdowns. I don't hate the Kareem Hunt scoring 2 touchdowns either. I take it almost every time he plays. Honestly, I had it Monday night too. Kareem scoring 2 touchdowns makes total sense. I don't hate that. Some of the wide receiver, some of the teams to sort of exploit with problems in the secondary who are allowed in terms of adjusted fantasy points allowed. The worst, the Steelers, 2nd worst, the Colts. So you got Metcalf, Michael Pittman. You've got those guys in there. Green Bay, very bad. I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you want to get crazy with Tat McMillan and that Panthers offense. The Cowboys, that'll be Monday night. The Seahawks are bad. The Vikings, talked about that Lions passing game and how bad these Vikings are on the back end against receivers. Jameson Williams is cheap, and I love when they make little articles. The offensive coordinator, Johnny Morton, said he has failed him. They're going to try to get him the ball. I expect him to force the ball to Jameson Williams this week. Then you have the Lions, the Ravens, the 49ers, and the Browns surprisingly up there. Again, that's a little risk reward. If Myles Garrett doesn't cut your head off, you're good there. So love me some Jamar Chase. Those are some of the matchups there. Let's talk value receivers because you guys get it up here at the top. So let's come down here. Parker Washington was mentioned in here. Absolutely, with the injury to Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. struggling. I think he's live. Jameson Williams is my favorite value play of the slate. 4,800 DraftKings, 6.5 FanDuel. I think he's in line for a big game. It seems like every time I look at the screen, Alec Pierce and Josh Downs are catching passes. So you're looking for some value guys. That makes sense. If Brock Purdy plays, the Giants allow the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Jawan Jennings, 100% live, getting healthier and healthier. 7 targets in each of the last 2 weeks. Purdy will more effectively use Jawan Jennings than does Mac Jones. So he's certainly someone I'm considering as well. Another guy, 3-9 DraftKings, 5-3 FanDuel. Chimere Dike for the Titans. This guy, 12 targets over the last 2 weeks, 33 DraftKings points, kind of emerging as a young target for those guys, along with Elik Ayamanor. I like Chimere Dike as well. Parker Washington, we mentioned it, 10 targets last week. Raiders stink against opposing wide receivers, allowing the fourth most fan or DraftKings points to opposing wide receivers. Parker Washington is in line, one of the better value plays as well. You can really save at receiver, in my estimation, this week. All right, let's get to the fucking tight ends. Let's get to the tight ends. Last week we had Goddard. It was great for us. This week we got the matchup with Kraft. I think he's going to be a little too popular. But look at Tyler Warren's matchup too. The Steelers just can't stop the pass. So Tyler Warren's another interesting guy. Pretty expensive on FanDuel. If you look on FanDuel, Tucker Kraft is much cheaper. So on DraftKings, Tucker Kraft is $200 more. If you look on FanDuel, Tucker Kraft is 6'2", and Tyler Warren is 7'7", so a $1,500 difference. So play them accordingly. Rondé Gadsden has turned into a weapon for the Chargers. Brock Bowers, this is an interesting one. 5K DraftKings making his return. Will they force him the ball? A lot of frustrated owners who have, drafted Brock Bowers much higher than they should. Try to tell people don't draft tight ends high. And he has really let you down, so hoping for a second half surge. George Kittle's in play against the Giants. We know that, especially if Purdy's in the lineup. Double-digit fantasy points last week on National Tight Ends Day. Expect more of the same this week. I do like Travis Kelce. Now, the Bills have the second best in terms of allowing fantasy points to opposing tight ends. They've allowed the second fewest. But Travis Kelce, in a game I think is going to be high scoring, they're going to focus on those receivers. I think Kelce with Rashee Rice back becomes even more valuable. Certainly like Travis Kelce. Laporta's in play. Kyle Pitts. There's a lot of these tight ends, and they're all right here in this 3-9 range. Evan Ingram, certainly in play. Houston really good on the perimeter. They're going to have to figure a way. I think Evan Ingram's going to have to be involved for the passing game for the Broncos. I think that's really it. Holston Loveland, if you're looking to get way down here, and Jawan Johnson. Jawan Johnson, fucking frustrating. He has been putrid all year until the last 2 weeks. After I cut him from my fantasy team, 15 targets over the last 2 weeks, 23 DraftKings points. Again, the Rams are really good against opposing wide receivers. They're good against the run as well. Very good against the run. Jawan Johnson could be sneaky. Colston Loveland could be sneaky down here. A couple value guys at tight end. Pat Freiermuth, we've seen what he's been up to lately at 3,100 on DraftKings as well. All right, let's get to some defenses, and we'll get you guys out of here on a Friday. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me, riding solo. First time in a while. First time in a long time. I used to do this every fucking night back in the day. Some of you might remember that. So, no thank you. I know the Packers were playing Carolina, and Carolina stinks. But that Packers defense, not good. I know Micah Parsons got traded there, but from what I've seen, it's been pretty disappointing. But I do love the Rams against the Saints coming off a bye. Should be frothing at the mouth at home. Sign me up for that. The Chargers against the Titans. Sign me up for that. Another bad offense there. The Titans have allowed the most fantasy points to opposing defenses. I do like the Lions. I think J.J. McCarthy stinks. So I don't hate that Lions coming off an extended period. He hasn't played a lot of quarterback. Didn't look great to me when he was playing outside of that one quarter where he did the comeback. A little shaky on that one. I don't hate the Patriots against the Falcons. Someone said it in here. Michael Penix sucks. He does. Michael Penix is not that great. If he's not going to use his legs, I don't get the point of drafting him now. He needs to use his legs. That's what makes him special. He can throw it just fine. But there's a lot of guys who can throw it just fine. And if you're not using your legs and you're a mediocre passer, I just don't fucking get it. The Niners defense against the Giants. It is a rookie quarterback. It is Robert Saleh. Saying if you want to get a little bit jiggy with it down lower, I think the Niners defense is a little bit live. But Jacksonville against the Raiders, turnover machine, that is Geno Smith. Couple disappointing weeks for their defense. I think they bounce back this week. I don't mind the Broncos or the Texans. Pick one. I think both defenses match up with the opposing offense well. It's going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. No Surtain, I think, for the Broncos, if I remember correctly. It's been a busy week. But those are a couple of defenses I like as well. That's it player by player, position by position. If we go to lineup optimizer, we'll make a quick lineup, get you guys out of here. I want to remind you, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want more content, best bets, lineups. Yeah, Pat Surtain is out actually for the pectoral injury 2 games. I do have it up. I did have it up on my screen. So there we go. Let's see what they made for us here. So this one, kind of interesting. Herbert at quarterback, Tracy here. Let's make our own. So let's do Jared Goff because I have some interest in this Jared Goff, and I do like this Jameson Williams idea. Let's see if we can pay up a little bit at running back. I like Kyron Williams. Kareem Hunt right there at 4,700. Absolutely don't hate that. But let's go like Kyle Monangai. Let's get a little bit different. Make it or Travion Henderson. Let's do that for Dixon. You like Travion Henderson or Kyle Monangai? Go a little Travion Henderson, and then with Jared Goff, we can stack Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams here. We'll just fix that. We'll go from Jamar Chase down to Jameson Williams. Do a little double stack of the Lions offense at receiver. Now we need to save 3,000, so we can't have Puka. We're not going to have Kyle Pitts. We'll do got Evan Ingram out here, Jawan Johnston, Colston Loveland, Freiermuth. Let's see. Let's rock a little Travis Kelce at let's go George Kittle at tight end, and then we'll save some money here at the flex. We'll head in with there's some Trey Tucker, Kareem Hunt, Kyle Monangai, so we could 3 running back it here. And we could go Rams defense, like that lineup. Now, I would want to leave some of my salary saved over, but Goff, Williams, Henderson, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, lots of other options there too. But if we want to come back the other way in what could be a high-scoring game, I suppose, maybe we switch him to a might be able to really do some things. So you see a lot of options here. Jawan Jennings, save some roster there. Click the link, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys watching. We will be back next week. Should have Monday Night Football live on Monday. So Erik and I will be